Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here today on this Motivation and Mindset Monday. Really excited to open the week with hopefully a topic that will get you thinking, because right now, most of us are in a state of mind, not of growth and not of thinking big, but actually simply trying to survive and trying to figure out what is the right move right now and will it keep us and our family safe. So if you're thinking that right now, if you kind of don't know where to go from here, you're not alone. And many people during the course of their life, it doesn't have to be just right now in this current pandemic, this current moment, but they don't know where to go. They don't know what the right next move is, and they're dealing with their own personal pandemic that's leaving them afraid, leaving them unable to even think about dreaming big and to getting out there and to simply living the life that they've always wanted to. So what I want to share with you today is I want you to contemplate, because a lot of us right now are thinking about what we want our lives to be after all of this is over. And we've had a lot of time to think about that. So here's the great thing, is that we can look at every one of life situations as something that's a giant obstacle, a giant challenge to overcome, or it could simply be a teaching point, a learning point, because for the most part, we're going to encounter this again sometime in the future. So if life has dealt us a hand that we have to play no matter what, and all of us do, then let's learn from it. What can we learn from this? Is there a silver lining? Because sometimes there maybe isn't, but it is about perspective at the end of the day. And if this is what we are all going through, what we need to do is this. We need to focus a little bit less on just surviving and actually shift our mindset towards thriving. Because if you are moving your mindset towards that of someone who thrives rather than just survives, you are going to have more thoughts, more ideas, and be able to take different actions that you would if you were living in a state of fear. Now, there's nothing wrong with being fearful. It happens to all of us. Just about 2 months ago, I remember being in a foreign country to me and my family, not being citizens of that country, when all of this viral-based talk is going on, and it's happening all around me, and borders are starting to close, and flights are being canceled, and we're trying to figure out, how do we get back when our flight's canceled? What happens? How many days left do we have? Do we have the right amount of supplies if they start to close grocery food stores? A lot of companies are now not considered essential. What does that mean in terms of getting the goods that we need? For Equilibrium Nutrition and many other wellness centers and companies that we are a part of and that we recommend and that we promote and all those different things, what does that look like for them in their community? A lot of fear was going on at that time, and I'm not going to ever sugarcoat it. I was feeling that, and I was stressed, and you can see that in my second video that I put out on my viral-based updates. And I let people know, listen, this is honest, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I think that we need to do. And I believe it was the right choice at that right time. We needed to get our stock ready. As we saw, many things ran out, especially in the natural health world. How many people, how many stores, how many places ran out of vitamin C, out of zinc, out of vitamin D, out of melatonin? A lot of these products were gone because people were stocking up, because there was a lot of fear. And to be honest, rightly so. Rightly so, in order to be able to boost your immune system. But what about all the other things? Like for people like myself, is like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get back. And when I'm back, now I'm in a 14-day quarantine. And what does that mean? And who am I going to ask to come into the city and drop off groceries and all of these different items? So I was living in a state of fear. And I hadn't been in that position for a couple of years. And every couple of years, I think there's a new position for all of us. That's what I'm trying to share with you today. It happens to all of us. Hopefully not all that often, but sometimes it is ongoing. Sometimes it is chronic, that fear. And when you're not in a good place and you can't control your destiny, right? That's where fear comes from. A lot of people don't know that, but fear comes from worrying about the future, okay? Anxiety comes about not being in control, and that's where fear comes from as well. Depression, as they say, is thinking about the past, living in the past. Anxiety and fear, they're from the future. What if this happens? What if that happens? How am I going to be able to do this? And for a lot of people who lost their job right now, or their relationships are in turmoil, or they feel themselves really down, their spirituality is low, they've gained some weight because of being stuck in their house all day and worrying and eating because of that, or maybe drinking alcohol, and their wellness might have taken a hit. So these are the 5 areas that we look at in life. We look at them, again, from body, that's your body, the type of shape that you're in. Remember this vessel that carries you through life, right? It needs to be healthy. It needs to be at a good weight. If not, it means it's inflamed. Forget about, again, like I always say, the vanity part to it. If your body's overweight, then you're inflamed. There's just no way around it. Adipose tissue, body fat, causes inflammation. It affects the body and it affects the brain. So if your body's not where it should be, then your health most likely is not going to be where it should be. That takes a little bit longer to start to deteriorate, but we start to feel the symptoms, a little bit groggier waking up, not as energetic, a little bit lower on life. And then again, like I spoke about spirituality, and then there's relationships, and then there's career and purpose, and however you want to mold those together, and you can put finances in there. Well, if you're losing those, if they seem out of your grasp, that's going to cause fear, that's going to cause anxiety. That is a normal response to those thoughts. Now, here's the problem. Those are thoughts that we are coming up with on our own, that we are thinking. And again, you might say, well, yes, that's because we're in the middle of a pandemic, and I get it. That's why I'm saying they're not abnormal or uncommon thoughts. But what we need to do is start thinking some uncommon thoughts. We need to actually start thinking about what can we do in order to thrive in this particular situation. And some of that is going to come from perspective just in the beginning, right? I've gone over this before. A lot of people don't like to talk about it in terms of vibration. I don't necessarily know if I like to either. But there's a hierarchy of emotions. And I'll see if I can link up my previous podcast on this. But basically, way down the bottom, we have like guilt and depression and shame. And then we start to move up towards anger. Now, you might say, well, anger is not a very good emotion. And I would agree with you. Anger is not a good emotion to be feeling. It wears you down. It lowers your heart rate variability. It makes you more susceptible to stress, lowers your immunity, etc. But anger is still a stronger and better emotion, in my opinion, and also in terms of taking action, which I'll talk about in a moment, much better than feeling shame, guilt, and depression. The reason is anger may move you to taking an action to change your life, hopefully for the better, right? If it can be channeled, you might not like your job or your relationship, but you're willing to do something about it to either make it better or to move on. So what I'm saying is, when you're near the depression level, it's very low. The vibration is very low because you're stuck. It's like having your feet literally in thick mud. You can't move. But if we move towards well, I'm not happy about where I'm at in life. Well, that may get you, it's not a good vibration, but it may get you to move to that next level, right? And so as we start to move up to at the top, again, you'll check out this previous podcast, but you get to the top, which is the peace, which is the joy, which is the love. All of those things is what we want to get to. Again, this is why I talk with therapists as well. I'm not a therapist, but I've deeply studied psychology, and I've studied health, and I look at the mind and I look at the body, and I just try to bring them together. Not the number one expert in psychology, not the number one expert in advanced biochemistry or whatever it might be, but my job is as an integrative health practitioner. I bring all of these things which most of the time are not connected. I'm trying to bring together traditional Chinese medicine and herbalism with Ayurvedic medicine, with bioregulatory medicine, with advanced orthomolecular medicine that we're seeing, right? We're seeing this used over and over for IV therapies and all these great things that we know, the great work by the great Linus Pauling and the double Nobel Prize winner on his work with vitamin C. We have that 30, 40 years ago now that we can use today. And we say how well that's working. And from a simple thing like ascorbic acid, right? And of course, there are various forms of vitamin C. We know that. But at a higher dosage and for specific health-based conditions, well, there are great things that we can use, like we said, from orthomolecular medicine. My job is to bring these together And that's what I hope to do from the mindset and motivation standpoint as well. I don't want to try to inspire you without giving you a reason why. So that you can always say, here's why I'm doing it, and here's what I can do about it. So that if you are really low right now, like I was feeling fearful when I was overseas. I was feeling anxious. Why? I was worried about my family, right? I was worried about my family and what I was going to do. Not so much self-preservation. I think I've been in some strange and hard situations before. I've also traveled the world solo by myself. And I'm confident that I could get out of these situations. And I also, when I look at it, I can get by on almost nothing. Like, that's the truth. But when you are a parent, you have a responsibility to your children. A responsibility from a couple different standpoints. Physiologically, so their physical well-being. I need to make sure that they have a house over their head, that they have food, that they have all the resources they need for survival. But then there's also the psychological aspect. I need to make sure that I am not permanently scarring their small psyches right now into how they view the world around them. Because I know that this is going to be very damaging for a lot of children out there under the age of 8 years old that are very susceptible to their formative years. That means what they see going on right now and how they see their role models acting actually embeds into their subconscious what they believe the world to be. So I'm hyper aware of this, and I'm trying to then not scare my children, my wife as well, she's very good at this, as to how we have to act, how we have to be. And it doesn't mean we can't have real conversations with them, which we've done, but we want them to know that this is not something that we can't overcome. We can overcome this. Because there's going to be times in their lives, their adult lives, well, teenagers, whatever it might be, that we're not going to be there. And they need to be self-sufficient. And they have to know that things can happen. I talked about that on last Monday's show. The 5 things I'm trying to teach my daughters right now. So I invite you to go back to that show. That was episode 1550. And today on episode 1557, we're talking about taking a bad situation, whenever it comes up in life, maybe it's right now, and moving beyond the current state. Because oftentimes you can't change the environment around you. So what do you do when you can't change the environment around you? You need to change your internal environment. You need to change your inner state. And that's what I did. It didn't happen overnight when I was overseas. I could catch myself, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how. So here's what I had to do. I had to be bold. That's what I said to myself. You need to be bold. You need to take action, because action, as the saying goes, beats anxiety. I was worried, but worrying was not going to get me anywhere. So I said, what's the first action we need to take? First action we need to take is find a flight. Yes, we want to get a refund for our tickets. No doubt about it. We don't want to waste the money. But what we need to do is get back onto U.S. soil. Okay, that's what we need to do. And then from being on U.S. soil, we're on the West Coast, then we need to figure out, okay, now let's get back to Boston and let's time this right, because if we're forced to be inside, well, we're up in a high-rise building. We can't leave. They're not allowing people, guest visitors, into our building. What do? We have no food. We can't go to the supermarket when we get back because we're under 14-day quarantine. So we'll make that decision next. First, let's get to the West Coast. They don't have that same restriction. Okay, we'll be okay there. We're not where our family. We want to be near our family in case they need us, right? Because my wife and I, we're caretakers. We want to take care of other people. I have not always had the ability to even be able to do that. One is I wasn't in the right place in my life. So I couldn't do a great job taking care of others. When you are not in a good place in your life, hard to look out for others. That's what I'm always telling people. That saying by Jim Rohn rules all. It's like, I'll take care of me for you if you take care of you for me. And that's the truth. It's like, take care of yourself. But there are some people who can't take care of themselves. So that's why you need to get yourself strong. And it's not selfish. The stronger you make you, and trust me, it is you that makes you strong. Nobody else can do it. But the stronger you make you, the more that you can then help other people, then you need to lend them a hand. That's it. Some people are not ready to make it to that stage yet. They're not investing in listening or investing in your time. They're not investing in their time in listening to podcasts like this or other inspirational-based formulas that then lead to action. Because remember, inspiration is great. You need it every day. At least I do. I need it every day. You may not need it. But what you want to do then is say, what can I do? So I want to share with you this. When I need to be bold, when I need to overcome something, I need to switch the mentality. Switch the mentality from someone who's weak to more of that of a warrior and not someone that goes to war. I'm not saying that. It's the last thing I promote. But what I'm saying is you need to be the warrior in your own life in order to overcome whatever your obstacle is right now. And a lot of time, it's mental outlook. Because a lot of the things that we're still able to do a lot right now. And so that's why it's always about perspective, right? It's about perspective. So I first look at, listen, I have my 2 daughters. I'm fortunate enough to have my parents. I have my siblings. I have my wife. Like, all right, we're together. We're going to figure this out. We're going to make it happen day by day. We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring yet, but we'll figure out today. And let's start to implement that plan. And I always say this. So I start to really look at things. What do I need to do in order to thrive in this environment? And I tell myself this first thing. You need to be open to pivoting. A lot of people are using the word pivot a lot more, and I like that. I like that that's becoming more part of the common vernacular. And the reason is this. I've got a great team of personal trainers right now. Amazing men and women at my studio in Boston. That studio has been closed now for about 6 weeks. Maybe just a little bit longer, right around there. And these are the top personal trainers in Boston. There's no doubt about it. Now, there are other personal trainers in Boston that are great, no doubt about it. But we handpick each personal trainer. It takes us about 6 months to find a personal trainer. Not a lot of people know that. And nutritionists, because they have to have multiple backgrounds. They have to be great with people. They have to have all these different certifications. We simply take our time. We say, listen, like, this person they have no ego, any one of these things. Here's the thing, though. The studio's been closed, right? So we have multiple locations. We've got a lot of great people on our team. Some are virtual, some aren't. Well, these personal trainers now are having to learn to now work with clients virtually. They may not like it. Some like it more than others. A lot of people like that interaction, that one-on-one feeling, and that's the same with me. But here's what you have to do. You have to be open and willing to pivot. And the ones that are open and willing to pivot, and they're able to work with their clients, keep the connection going, and just say, listen, this is not a forever thing, but this is now. Let me help my client to the best of my ability. You always have to focus on service first. You really do. And so when it stops becoming about you and you realize most people out there right now are eating more processed foods, they're drinking more alcohol, they're not moving their bodies. Do you think that makes you more susceptible to illness? Well, my answer would be unequivocally yes. So if you are worried about your client as a health professional, whether it's a functional medicine doctor, naturopathic doctor, integrative health practitioner, personal trainer, yoga instructor, you name it, reach out to them. Can I help you in any way, shape, or form? Maybe it's just an email inspiring them. Maybe it's sending them over a workout video. Maybe it's working with them one-on-one through Skype or some other free program. Do what you can in service of others. I mean, you have to create a situation where you enable you, whether it be your career or your service to others, to pivot. If you are always seeing people one-on-one in your practice as a doctor or practitioner, you need to be able to now help them online. It's not about want sometimes. Like, nobody wants any of this to happen, but it is happening. So now what do we do? Well, we say, hopefully it's temporary, which all of us do. So what do we do next? Well, temporarily, let me serve, let me help in some other way. And to me, that simply means I'm going to pivot right now. I'm going to make a decision to move forward. That's what it means. I'm going to make a decision to move forward with my life in another way that also, by the way, may open you up to all sorts of new possibilities. New ways to be able to enrich your life as well as the lives of others. And that brings me to my next point, which is making moves, right? When you decide to make that pivot, it's more mental, okay, I'm willing to give this whole virtual thing a shot, right? My daughters, I mean, it's any example. I've just chose my personal trainers because I care about my team so much. I want to do everything I can, but I can't physically do it, right? I can't physically do it. A lot of our health coaches, of course, they're working with people virtually because our practice has been about 90% virtual for the past 3 or 4 years. But for everybody, you may not want to do this, but virtually, right? So my daughters, they like being in school. They love all of their friends in school. Right now, they see their friends over Zoom. Not ideal, but we have to pivot the mindset for now and make moves to make that happen. So we use Zoom, we use Skype. With Equilibrium Nutrition, we have our own HIPAA-based software that we can use with lab clients and private clients. We keep all the labs in there. We keep the videos going, and those are the moves that you need to be making. And I'm talking more from a career standpoint right now, but really, it's not. It's for anything in your life. For example, there's a lot of churches right now. A lot of people giving their services online. Sure, you want to be inside your church, but if you can't be, next best thing is to do it virtually or set up a call with your pastor or whoever it might be of your church. So the thing is, make a decision that's bothering you. So make a decision for an answer, for a move that may or may not work out, but you're moving forward. You're taking action. That's where that third part comes in, is being bold. It's just saying, you know what? I don't know how it's going to work, because you don't. It's new to you. So since you don't know how it's going to work, you need to be bold. You need to try. And that's why you also have to allow yourself for it not to work out. If you don't put as much pressure on yourself and you say, it doesn't have to work out, but I need to try, I need to do something, it's a great way to look at life. Don't put the pressure on yourself. Give it a shot. Trust me, you'll learn something from it. It will be worth it. The next one is this: stay strong, right? Stay strong. And I mean that more, well, yeah, of course, physiological. Keep your body strong, right? It will help your mind. But keep yourself mentally strong. Do things that inspire you. Do things that keep you going. Talk with someone that is a great support system for you. Bounce ideas off of people. Find a little bit of creative time. Keep that mind strong. It's about perseverance. It always is. Hey, if this action doesn't work out, that's okay. I'll think of another one tomorrow. I'll try something else next week. Let me try this out. Even if it is only temporary, well, I'm going to learn something new from this experience so that going forward, well, I can carry this forward. Sure, at one time, I was a, name it, in-person health coach. And I work with people on diet and all these great things in order to help them improve their overall healthy lifestyle. Well, now you might be learning to use technology, and now you might be able to actually help people outside of your local area. You can work with people anywhere in the world. So you're learning something new that maybe you use in the future, maybe you won't. But it's certainly going to enrich your knowledge, certainly going to make you more well-rounded. And no matter what, even if it doesn't work, you never use it again, you know what you did though? You showed yourself that you were able to push through the current events of your time. That you're able to not just stand there, but do something, to be bold. And the last one is this. The last part of this formula that I'm really thinking about is dreaming big. Because right now, and as I talked about in the beginning of today's show, a lot of people they're staying small. They're just trying to survive. And I get that. Trust me, I've been there. You're just trying to make it through the day. You're stuck at home and you're trying to survive. Or whatever your present circumstance is, because this show will be listened to 4 or 5 years from now. So trying to survive is a very different mindset from dreaming big. And it's very difficult to dream big when you are just trying to survive. So how do you get there? It's all through mindset. It's understanding this, and I will continue to repeat this. You've been through difficult times before. You've made it through those times. You're here today. Use that knowledge to understand you will make it through this as well. Tomorrow will come. When that day comes, what are you going to look forward to? You have to have something that carries you through. Start to create a vision for your life of what you want it to be, not what it is right now. Remember, it may seem unfathomable of what you could achieve in the future. Like, oh, sure, that's a dream of mine, but I don't see how that would ever come true. It's not your job right now to figure out how it's going to come true. You simply want to develop the vision for the life that you want, and you will begin to take one small step forward each day. That's it. Your job is not to figure out exactly how to get there, but simply to say, what's the next step? What's one thing I can do? What's one book I can order? What's one recipe I can try out? Who's one person I can call to speak to? What's the one thing you can do that begins to move you one step closer to that big vision you have for yourself? So if I can leave you with one thing for today, it's this. Get out of the survival mindset. You will survive. Start to move towards that thriving mindset. There's really no downside. Begin to dream big. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, but set a vision for your life of one that gets you excited, one that gets you up every day, excited to work towards that, to begin to take new actions, new steps that moves anxiety to the side and really starts to excite you for the life that you're going to be living not too far from now. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. Truly appreciate you. And as always, please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could serve. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or unbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to StephenCabral.com/rainbarrel.